Welcome to my live stained glass channel. Just looking at my TV, waiting for me. Oh, it should be on. All right, well, I'm going to start anyhow. There we go. It's flipping on. I just wanted to make sure. This is the first time I'm using the TV. Oh, there it is. My mess. Let's see. To get the live chat. Oh, I don't know. I could see it on the phone, I guess. Let's see. I believe I can see it. Let's see. Let me hit this. Live chat. Okay, I could see that. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna do a live video of glass cutting mitts. Okay. It has a slight delay. I'm not gonna look at the TV. Hopefully, if the chat does come up, I'll be able to see it. I could see it on the phone, I think, but we'll see. It looks pretty centered. What I'm gonna do is a quick demonstration. I got the scale out. You can see my cord. Well, cord, you're not supposed to be in the view. It allows me to charge the phone as I'm going. This is all new to me, guys, so please bear with me. I'm doing the best I can. Actually, if I put this here, that works. All right. There's, say rumors, there's mischutes, I'll say that, about scoring glass. And here I have this is a single strength clear. Basically, it's 3/32 of an inch. It's used for picture frames and this and that. The thing is, it's very soft. The glass is very easy to cut, as many know. And I'm going to start with that. We're going to go ahead and tear that out. Now I have a few glass cutters here. I have my silver schnitz, and I also have the pistol grip. I think with the pistol grip, I'm going to have the best success with putting pressure down on the glass. All right, and as you've heard me say before in a few of my videos, the amount of pressure to score glass is between 4 and 6 pounds. 4 and 5. I'm going to go ahead and put the cutter down. 3, let's see, 3, 4, yeah, right around here. Right around right there. That's the typical pressure. And for float glass, soft window glass, it's probably less than that. Probably like 3 to 4 pounds, which I'll show you right here. And I can't touch the scale, so I'm going to hold the cutter down. Yeah, 3 to 4 pounds. And we're going to run through it. You could see it cuts fairly easily. The thing about cutting glass, and this may help a lot of people, whether you're using a pistol grip or a hand cutter or a silver schnitz, what you can do, this is not going to, I'm not using a scale, I'm using it to show the cutter. When you put the wheel down, you can feel, if you go side to side, if it's sliding, that's too little pressure. If you start putting pressure down and go to side, you'll feel the wheel actually biting into the glass, right? So that'll give you a good idea on what pressure to use. If you feel the wheel slipping a little bit to the side and, not doing a good grip, and, try to explain it. It's like a bite into the glass. You're not pressing down hard enough. And, with regular window glass, let's see, if you got any, let's see if anyone's watching. I think I have a couple people here. I have somebody liked it. All right, we'll go back. I'll just focus on the intention here, the lesson at hand. And what I was getting at, window glass is very soft. It doesn't have any minerals in it that would harden it, make it difficult to cut, like stained glass, which, whether it's a solid white, opalescent, the glass, white has a high level of antimony in it, which by nature of antimony makes it very difficult to cut because it's hard. And for that reason, you need slightly more pressure, right? Very important. So I'll use the pistol grip again. And for white, this glass here, you want to go, I'm going to not look at the scale, I'm going to say 5 to 6 pounds, right? Up to 7. If you tried to do this with less pressure, it's not gonna break. And here we go. I'm gonna show the next demonstration. Say we tried it with 4 pounds. Go to 4. 4. Trying to keep it consistent. Now you could barely hear the score. It did still score the glass slightly, but not enough to where it was very hard to snap it. Where the score should have been, closer to the 5 or 6 pounds. All right, and for that reason, you don't want to say, let me just score, 4 to 5 pounds, like this. And then on the white glass, do the same. It's not the same. And another example. Here's an opalescent green. This is, I believe it's Kokomo. Actually, I'm pretty confident it's Kokomo. You're going to find that glass that is opaque, where you can't see through it, a lot of the reasons it is opaque is because they add the white to it, which makes the glass a lot denser and harder to cut. That's why opaque glass is more difficult to cut, especially if it's got white in it. So for glass like this, you want to edge higher to the 5 to 6 pounds of pressure. Let's reset it. And I'm still going to use the pistol grip. Let's go. I want to go. See, I'm going to get stuck in the gullies here. That's 8 pounds, too heavy. Try to keep 7 pounds. I'm just going by experience with glass. So this glass would need more closer to, say, 8 pounds. 7 to 8 pounds. It didn't even cut. Let's just try that again. Yeah, I'm going a little harder now. I'm going closer to 8 pounds. So that's a good example why you need a little more pressure. I was just going by instincts. I wasn't really looking at the scale. But I did notice it did jump up to about 8 pounds, which you need for very dense opalescent glass. It's not a, you can't cut this glass with the same pressure as you cut with the plate glass. It's about double the pressure. And here we have a cathedral. Now cathedrals are typically very easy to cut. This looks like a rough rolled spectrum. And for cathedrals, you want to go onto the lighter side. You don't want to press down as heavy as an opalescent. Here I was doing a tricky cut a while ago. Just turn this on. Tear it. Let's go right down the middle. And here, I'm actually going a little heavy. I went to about 7 pounds because this glass is actually not the easiest to break. But again, it's not going to be the same pressure as an opalescent glass. All right. My point is, all glass, you don't use the same pressure. Let's reset this. And it's really hard to do it showing it like this. And let's just try it again. I'm going to go very gentle. See, if you went with 5 pounds, it would break fine. If you went with a glass like this, an opalescent spectrum, it's like a peachy opalescent, you probably get away with less pressure. Let me just cut a piece off of here. Let's just see. I can feel, as soon as I roll the cutter, I know what kind of pressure I'm going to need. Because I can feel the cutter biting into the glass. And that goes with experience. So if you're cutting glass and you don't feel the bite in the glass, you're not pressing hard enough. You got to feel the bite. You don't want to overpress it where you start flaking up the glass in all kinds of directions. But you want to, let's reset this. You want to feel, like I said earlier, the glass cutter slides. You want to push down to where you could feel it starting to bite into the glass. Now that'll probably start in and around 1 pound, but ideally when you're cutting glass, when you start, you could feel there's like a vibration of the scoring going into the glass. And when you're cutting glass, say you're cutting a lot of one color, you'll get the idea of how much pressure you're going to need for that specific glass you're using. So, bottom line is, most glass, 4 to 6 pounds on average, but there are times, and I was cutting some of this, it's the iridized white. I believe it's a kokomo from the texture. And this glass requires a lot more pressure than regular glass. And let me just get it over here. I'm going to cut another piece off it. Here, when the glass cutter came off, you could hear I was up in the 8 pounds of pressure range, not 4 or 5. So let's see. I'm going to go on and reset, tear it. So the same amount of pressure, you can see 8 to 9 pounds. If you tried to cut this with, let's reset it, with 4 pounds, it's about 4 pounds. It's going to be hard to break, hard to snap. So the truth of the matter is, different glass, different opacities, different textures. I mean, the clarity of the glass, it all matters to how hard you press down. Here, for example, we have a ruby cathedral, which is also a spectrum, 152G. And this glass, even though it's a cathedral, will actually be harder to cut because it's red. I'm pressing down not that hard. You can see that's pretty hard, but it cut very well, easily. I'm going to try to replicate. Okay, that's how I do it. Tear it like that. Replicate the pressure here. See, it's well over 8 pounds. 8 to 9 pounds. But that's the pressure you need to cut this red glass. Because what I'm doing, when I'm cutting it, see, it still didn't even break, even though I pressed down with enough pressure. What I'm doing, I'm recalling the amount of pressure I needed. Right here, it's about the same here. And that's about 8 or 9 pounds. Because it is red. You give it enough pressure, it'll break easily. And that won't hold the same if you're using say a green, what is this? Granite, the green spectrum granite. It'll cut a lot easier because it's green. And blue also cuts easier. And you get into some of the red and yellows, whites, it becomes very difficult to get the score through. You have some gray cathedral. This is going to cut very easily. You hear the score on this. That's about 7 pounds. Because I pressed down until I could feel how much pressure I needed. That's not going to break well because I came off the scale. But yeah, the point is, all glass does not require the same amount of pressure. That's a fallacy. I hear it being said all the time. Every glass has its own personality. If you're going to go with, say, a Wismac English muffle, a green Wismac English muffle, it'll cut very similar to a blue English muffle, Wismac. But it will not cut the same with a red English muffle. Red will require a little more pressure. And the bottom line is when you're scoring, if you don't hear your score, you may need to put a little more pressure down to be successful. So you want to be able to actually you could feel the wheel biting into the glass, and that's that only comes with experience with cutting glass. Whether you're drawing or you're pushing, it really does make a difference. And the bottom line is to put out a blanket statement saying, "Oh, just use the same pressure and don't variate any pressure on the glass." That is so far from the truth. It's not. It's disingenuous to say. You want to treat every glass unique, and if you're cutting the glass, you're gonna know from the first score and say, "Well, it didn't break," or something else happened. How to cut it on the next score. So that's very important. I mean, it's not life-saving important, but it's something you really have to consider when you cut glass. And learning by doing, that's the expression, right? Learning by doing. If you're cutting something, you'll know in the future how much pressure you use and how much you need. If you're starting out with a piece of glass and you're not familiar with how it's going to cut, let me just pull this back a little bit. Like I said, you could start the score and try, say, oh, it didn't break right. Or you could say, well, I already cut red Baroque. I know what kind of pressure I need. And I'll bring out a hand cutter this time. Let's see, we're gonna cut this. I have to peek around the camera. This one you can hear the score. And again, that was probably in the neighborhood of 6 pounds, 6 to 7 pounds, because it is Baroque. Baroque, though it does cut easily, when you get into the areas where there's red in it, like here, it's not going to cut easily. So for really a skilled cutter, if you're cutting something like Baroque, start out in the clear area. You don't need as much pressure, but when you get into this red, dig in a little bit. Dig in meaning put a little bit more pressure in, and I'll show you. Here we're going to go medium amount, and here we want to just lay it down a little heavier, and then lighten up again. Now the amount of pressure variances, I'm only talking maybe a pound difference, but there is a difference. If you didn't do that, especially if you had a curve or something, you get into this thicker, the more opaque red here, and your curve is there, you're going to end up snapping off or having a problem. So just keep that in mind. And the whole point of this video is to explain reasonings behind different pressures of glass. Let's see, we have 4 people on. I don't see any chats. Let's just see. Let's see if that opens it up. Top chat. Chat here. Okay. Let's see. Well, here we go. Have somebody here. No glass questions. Welcome to live chat. Well, I don't know how to do it. I'm going to look on the TV, see if there's an option. Live chat? I just don't know. I hooked the TV up so I can actually see the chat. But I guess no one loves me. No one's here to chat. That's okay. I talk to myself all the time. And, I know people are busy. They 1 o'clock in the afternoon, it's like looking at a YouTube video. I get it. But that was my main point. And there's another thing. I'm going to use this glass because it's a good example of it. This is another spectrum. It has I don't know if it's a rough roll they call it, or there was a name for it. I forget the name of it. But here's another thing that just drives me crazy. Like, say you're cutting glass, right? Most people, they push, and they get stuck in a divot. Sometimes it's best to just stop what you're doing, go back, and you could actually, I'm going to cut like everybody else does. When you push your cutter, say, ooh, I hit a little divot here, right here. And you could stop. There's no reason to continue through. If you feel like you're losing it, just stop what you're doing, because what you can do, if you can see the score, that's great. But if you have a line traced down there where you're following it, let's go back to the line, and you could feel where your score ended. Where you stopped. You see, it's right about. feel it. That's a bad example because I don't have anything drawn down here where you can see it. But if you, there it is, right there. There it is. I found the score. You can feel where you stopped. And then you actually see it. It's right here. And then just continue with what you were doing. I think that was it. I might be wrong. It may not be it. Yeah, that was it. So a lot of times you could actually feel the score. And if you're using a marker, there's no doubt you can see it. And that was a bad example because I wasn't stuck. But if you do get stuck, let's say you gotta, I think somebody came in. Somebody said something. So we're going to cut this. And I'm going to stop right there. Right at the 8 and the line. Let the cat out, make a pot of coffee. There's no reason to, if you feel like you're losing it, you're getting in trouble, to force your way through it and try to finish your score. Come back, so I can feel the score now. I'm very gently feeling the score with the wheel. And here I don't feel it. So I stopped right here. And then you can go right back to what you're doing. I'm not a push cutter. See, I just got stuck right there. And finish off the score. The whole thing about, making sure you don't stop, just keep going. That's another thing. I'd rather you catch your breath, understand what's going on before you freak out, waste your glass or what have you. And then come back, even if you have to, if there's a point where you got to jump over what you were getting stuck in. Say you're cutting. Oh, I got stuck right there. And you could see by draw cutting, I pull right through it. But there's also a good thing you can do is you could stop where you got stuck and just kind of skip over it and continue with the break, with the score. And that'll allow you to cut what you were trying to cut. So that, this spectrum is easy to cut, but in this area, it's very opaque. And you can see it's translucent here, and it gets a little opaque here. But this is where you want to make sure you apply enough pressure. And I'll do that. Say, well, I know that's going to need more, so I'm going to start off a little heavy, and then lighten up here. Make sure so I am. You could see when it broke. When the run got to here, it started getting it was laboring to break through that glass. I'm a professional glass cutter. Everybody knows that, so I know what to expect. But if you're new, don't start out and say you're going this way and everything's cutting nice and 4 to 5 pounds, and you get to this point and it starts breaking all over the place. Oh, the reason why, because you didn't put down additional pressure where you needed it. And this glass is actually a really good example to really define the reasons why you have to use a variable amount of scoring pressure. And it's not, you don't just set it, like if you had one of those those cutters with the wheels, I don't know. It's got the arm and what are they called? I don't know. But when you push down, it's not like you set it at 4.5 pounds and call it done. That's not how you cut it. You start out heavy, go light, go a little heavy, and then go light. And that little bit of easing of pressure will get you through what you're scoring, whether you're pulling or pushing. And that's really, really important. It's and again, I'll say it's not one pressure. All glass cuts differently. Even if you got a white Kokomo glass, it's like the XXDD LLMM white in a granite. This stuff's a bear to cut. It really is. It's very difficult to cut. But if you get the same type of white, say in a Wismac glass, that's dense as well, maybe a little bit of wispies in it, it's not going to cut the same as that dense Kokomo white. It just won't. You need a pound or two more pressure on the Kokomo white. Again, whether you're pushing or pulling. And then if you went with Kokomo green granite, it's very easy to cut. You could cut it with less pressure. If you put too much pressure on, say, a green granite or glass that cuts really easy, it's like a wine mix. If you put too much pressure on it, you're going to end up not cutting correctly either. So I'm going to put extra pressure just to emphasize that. So that's going to actually hinder the break because you push too hard. And a good way to tell, if you see the glass starting to flake up and chip, you don't want that. That's too much pressure. Some glass, you need the extra pressure. And even with the extra pressure, this will probably break, but it'll be a lot better suited with less pressure. All right, so you don't have to, I'm going to show you the same kind of, and always dip your wheel in oil. Don't ever attempt to cut glass. See, little divot. And be successful at it if you don't dip your cutter. Whether it's on a sponge, a cotton swab, a paper towel, you always got to dip your cutter. Because what the dipping does, it also, that flaking you got on here, and that was due to a hard score. Without any oil, you're going to also get that flaking, which will jeopardize a good cut. Let's see. Does pulling the score work better than pushing? Oh, now I can see the chat. Yes. Stephen Weiss. Excuse me. Well, let me tell you, pulling the cutter, and I explained it on other videos, when you draw a cut, the kinetic energy from your hand down to the wheel is far superior than if you push the cutter, even with a hand cutter. If you push cutting like this, you get into a little trouble with a divot or a bump. You may push and skip and jump. Draw cutting is always a better option because you got a lot more control with the wheel and how it moves through any kind of lines, bumps, divots, and what have you. So, for example, when I score like that, the kinetic energy of my wheel is coming toward me, and it doesn't have any chance to do wonky things, right? Or but pushing. If you push, I'm showing another piece of glass here. If you push your cutter, and you could use a hand cutter too for pushing. You don't have to hold it like this. These cutters work fine like this, as long as I don't lose my wheel. I had to get a new one because the wheel popped out. You can hold it like this, and then assist your hand, with your other hand, your 2 fingers here, and then push. All right, that you can also do that. But again, when you're push cutting, you risk the chance of getting stuck in the divots or crevices of the glass. and having a hard time pulling through it. And I did a video on, I intentionally cut the glass on the wrong side, on the heavily textured side, just to prove a point about, and I'll do it here now. So you got me on here. Well, see, I see my chat and then it disappears, but that's all right. This is very textured glass. Yeah, you don't cut on this side. And I kind of tell people, say, "Oh, cut on the smooth side." Yeah, you cut on this side. But for demonstration purposes, if you tried to push cut this, you probably could get through it, but you're going to be all over the place and having issues. But if you draw cut, and I don't recommend anyone doing this. I have to be clear with that. I was doing a demonstration. I cut on the backside of hammered glass to show you how draw cutting works. Here, draw cutting, you can see I could get right through all of those problems. I even got stuck myself. A very big bump right here. But with draw cutting, I could pull it through a lot easier. See, and actually have a successful break. If you try to push cut that through this bump here, you're going to really struggle with it. And if you can understand the physics that's going on with, pushing over pulling, the kinetic energy and the angle of your cutter and your arm, how when you're drawing to you, it's like a wheelbarrow. You got a wheelbarrow with two hands, you're pushing it, and you come into a little divot in the ground. You try to push your wheelbarrow through it, the wheel's going to get stuck, and you're going to have issues trying to push that wheel through the little divot in the ground. But if you pull the wheelbarrow, you could pull that wheel right through it. It's just a matter of physics and how the kinetic energy works. That's a really good example to explain the advantages of draw cutting. So as far as cutting better, yeah, it cuts better because you're more successful with your scoring. It's it's just like, the end result of draw cutting. Draw cutting as well is, in my opinion, it's a lot better for template cuts. Template cutting. So you have a template and you draw cut through it. Have a great day. Stay warm. Crime Cricket. It's watch it. Yeah, the video. Thanks for watching. Crime Cricket. Crime Cricket. This will be recorded, and what I see the chats pop up, but I can't see the full chat list. That's fine. At least I did notice that. But yeah, thanks for stopping in. So the bottom line is, all glass has its own personality. Whether it's Kokomo, Wismag, Eurobarrels, Yakogani, I call it Yokogani. All glass some will cut similar, but they mostly don't cut the same. I subbed. Can you next time you read live? I said watching you next time. I had a great stay warm. Oh, I subbed. Oh, okay. Well, I did a notification on Facebook, but I'm not here to grab a giant audience. I'm here to record valuable content, and my live videos will be recorded. So if you want to rewatch it, you can rewatch it. And I don't just go live and say, "Oh, okay, look at this beautiful glass. I'm just gonna cut it this way," and then this next day come up and say, "I'm gonna cut it this." You won't see that with me. I do live videos, recorded videos, and what have you. Everyone's going to have its unique content and have a valuable learning curve. So you can expect that with me. I'm not going to just keep regurgitating the same cutting and do stupid little glass tricks. It's not me. I did a few glass tricks. I cut this V. I cut a couple of them, and I showed how you can cut in. But that was that was more educational because I just wanted to show you you can do that, as well as cutting a star, cutting a star. And this blue opal was actually pretty tough to cut. I shouldn't have done it. I should have cut the star out of glue chip. But nonetheless, I did it, and I've never been challenged by glass in a crazy way. But of late, I have to confess, I cut this iridized white for this succulent I'm working on, and that stuff was a bear. It gave me trouble, and I literally had to break out the grinder to get the nips off the glass. It happened. It's iridized white. It's very difficult, and again, iridized white from Kokomo, or Spectrum, or Urburst, or what have you. They may all cut differently, and maybe if you cut on the back side of it, but with Kokomo glass, though you can cut on the backside, I can. I wouldn't recommend doing it because there's excessive amount of gullies, bumps, divots, seeds, and so you want to cut on the side the top side of the glass that leveled out when it went through annealing. So but like spectrum iridized, you cut on the non-iridized side, you might have a lot more success with it. The iridized aspect of glass, I believe, causes a slight issue with the penetration of the wheel into the glass that would affect the cutting. So when you're cutting iridized glass, just be prepared to, slow down a little bit, maybe put a little bit more pressure, and maybe a little bit more oil on your wheel just to cut through the iridized glass. And that's my observation. I've cut iridized glass before. I've cut a lot of it, but typically most of the glass I cut is opalescent variety, like this, or window glass, Baroque, glue chip. So that, like I said earlier, I have that in the back of my mind. Being that I'm experienced at cutting, I knew what to expect and how to go about cutting a certain type of glass. And a lot of that all starts with your initial rolling of the wheel. You start cutting glass, you say, oh, you actually feel like a vibration of that wheel. And what that is the glass being separated, the molecules being separated. If you don't hear that or feel that, especially with white glass, a very dense opaque glass, put down a little bit more pressure. You don't want to just go in without hearing anything. There's sometimes I've cut glass that no matter how hard you press, you're not going to hear the score. So you don't want to overpress the glass. But if you're not hearing a score, or if after your first cut it doesn't break well for you, add a little more pressure. You really need to, especially in this very dense white. You have this is actually pot white. It cuts fairly easy, but it does need more pressure than, say, a glue chip or something like that. So, and again, I know the amount of pressure to go in with, but if you're cutting glass and you're not sure how much pressure, start scoring it and finish your cut, and then adjust. If it's not breaking 100% for you, put a little more pressure on it. Don't be afraid. I mean, I'm not saying to bear down 20 pounds. Just hit a little bit more pressure. All right? And little means like a pound or two. So I hope this live demonstration helped somebody. I'm sure it did. And, I may get the questions or the naysayers saying, oh, no, you cut all the glass the same pressure, and, pull cutting is not good. No one does it that way. Well, I mean, I've got a million answers for all those questions, but it's not. I mean, I could go into the reasons, but that was for another video. If you do push cut, whether it's a Toyo, a pistol grip or silver schnitz and you push, consider draw cutting. And for example, if you do cut strips off of a sheet, or if you cut a sheet of glass in half, and you draw, a lot of people do, they put the straight edge up and they cut. And I say, wow, the glass cut beautifully when I pull this way. Why is that so? Well, it's so because you're using the kinetic energy of the cutter to literally rip through the surface texture of that glass. Where if you push it, you don't get that same kinetic. It's like, it's kinetic energy. So that's why, and I know everybody says, well, I draw, when I cut strips, it cuts beautifully. But when I push, it gets all over the place. Well, that's the reason. And that's the reason why I draw cut, and the reason why professional studios draw cut. You won't go to, and this is where a lot of people get annoyed with me. You're not going to go to a professional studio and see people, especially, and I'm going to say professional, I'm going to say a studio with mass production and professionals. You're not going to walk into a studio where they're doing any kind of mass production and see people push cutting. You're just not going to do it. Everybody's going to be draw cutting. And the reason is it's a lot more efficient. You get through what you're cutting a lot better. It's a lot faster. It's more successful. So for you folks that say, oh, I'm a professional studio, I've been doing it for 50 years and all I ever did was push cut. Yeah, I get it. You're one by one, you do one by one. You're not mass producing stuff where you need to get it out and get it done right, quick, and accurate. So it's bananas and apples. So I'm not saying you're not professional. You're professional, but you're just not to the next level of glass cutting professional. And it's not meant to put anybody down, but it's the truth. It's a fact. And if you do draw cut, you know exactly what I'm talking about. People that have mastered draw cutting know exactly what I'm talking about. And, if you look at old videos of people using diamond cutters, they never pushed. It's like trying to push a shovel. Or push a rake. You drag a rake. So when they use a diamond, they're describing the glass. You can't scribe this way. I mean, you guess you could, but it's going to go all over the place. You're going to draw your scribe. And that was the old, diamond cutters without wheels. And wheels, they roll. But, so if we want to go back to, old days, years and years ago, mostly everybody, I'm saying everybody used the draw cutting technique. They didn't push diamonds. You can't. Unless the wheel's angled like this, then you could push a diamond like that, but that seems redundant. So if you are a push cutter, try pulling. You're going to see. And if you do cut strips or cut sheets in half, you say, oh, that cuts so beautifully when I pull this one. I wonder why. Well, that's why. And, if you were here for my live shot, thank you for joining. I have a couple of people said hello, gave me a thumbs up, and I got 5 people on. I can't, I don't see the live chat. I'll go back on a computer and answer them. It'll still be available. And if you were here, thank you for watching. And, for those that are not subscribed, please do. Please subscribe to my channel. It's free, and you'll get the instant notifications when I do go live. It'll pop up right on your phone. Hey, Gary's live. And they say, Gary's an idiot. I don't want to see him. Or you could say, hey, good, I'll go check it out. And on that, everybody have a great day, and happy cutting. And if you have any questions, I'm on Facebook. Ask away. I'll be as helpful as I can. And again, guys, if you're a push cutter and you're a professional studio, I'm not saying you don't know what you're doing. You're very tuned into your skills and what you do and your accomplishments. I'm not saying that. I'm talking about production cutting. and getting through glass at a quick pace and getting it done accurately, fast, and proficiently. All right, it's a big difference. All right, so and that's where I come from. I come from a studio where we had 8 to 10 glass cutters all day long just cutting glass, and we've seen it all. We've seen all the glass that you could think of, and even then more that are no longer in existence that were even harder to cut. Believe it or not, we had stuff from Vietnam that was just amazingly tough to cut. I don't have Facebook. Is there another way to contact? Yeah, you could ask in my community chat on YouTube. You go to community. I have a community chat area that you could post pictures. You can ask. I think if you go to my homepage, oh, Luann, yeah, you go to my YouTube homepage and look at hit the community button, and it'll bring up a community message board where you could put photos, do a lot of things, ask questions. I will see all of that because I do get notifications of new posts to the community. And yeah, use it. It's very easy to use, and yeah, you could share pictures saying, look, I did this and did that. And yeah, a lot of people don't like Facebook because it could be intrusive, and you don't want to share your life with everybody and anyone that knows you from the past to present. I get it. I really do. But anyway, yeah, my YouTube community has that feature. Oh, Luann. Okay, you're welcome, Luann. Yeah, if I watch the TV, I could see the chats, but I can't see the whole chat discussion. I don't know. I could see if I could fix that. I think what I was going to do, actually mirror my phone, because when I launched the YouTube app on my phone, I could see the chat. And typically, I saw the chat on this before, but only when I was doing a vertical thing. I don't know. But anyway, I'll work out the kinks. I think what I'm going to do is, if I did the phone mirroring, it's going to show the what I see on my phone, which is probably not going to work anyway. But I do see the chats. You're welcome, Luann. I hope you do well cutting glass, and please pardon my mess. Why am I so messy? All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and close this one out. And again, thanks for watching, and you have a good day, and we'll see you next time.